The world seldom distributes outcomes with balance or courtesy, and you can meet people who smile and still cut your footing. And you can refine rare abilities only to watch a less prepared contender slip into the place you aimed for. That pattern exists. Those who recognize the pattern endure it. Those who endure learn to organize terrain. What emerges from that recognition is a kind of unseen acuity that others sense without understanding. Call it shadowed comprehension, born from burns, from put-downs, from losses that could have shattered resolve. Many collapse under that weight, while you can treat it like a forge that tempers attention, patience, and timing. This form of understanding listens more than it speaks, observes more than it performs, conserves energy, and selects moments with precision. While noise increases, you collect signals. While tempers flare, you model alternatives. While others drown in impulse, you map the board several turns ahead. Most people accept simple moves. You are preparing for complex play. Keep the purpose clean. This material exists to shield your interests, not to harm those who have done nothing to you. Learn the structure so you are not used by it. Choose the path of capability, not cruelty, and you will separate survivors from casualties. Begin with a simple commitment that sets a frame for everything that follows, since language directs attention. Repeat calmly, I opt for strategic clarity, not reflexive emotion. Hold to it, because the coming ideas work only when your center of gravity is steady. The first shift concerns deliberate ambiguity, a craft of measured disclosure that refuses the habit of answering every question in full. People imagine fullness where gaps appear, and imagination often binds stronger than facts. Observers see an image, a fraction, a silhouette, then write the rest themselves, and that story steers behavior. Think of individuals who magnetize rooms without explaining themselves. They do not flood conversations with details. They leave tasteful blanks. They reply with queries. They let a smile carry answers words would cheapen. None of this requires dishonesty. It is curation, not fabrication. A discipline that decides which pieces of your picture belong on display and which pieces stay in the studio. You already know the trap. A casual prompt arrives and you hand over background, motives, hopes, and fears. It feels transparent and loyal, yet you have traded leverage for approval. Mystery creates attention. Attention becomes regard, and regard converts into influence. Practically, that means you choose phrasing that signals importance without emptying the vault. Replace exhaustive monologues with concise indicators that redirect focus. When someone asks about your weekend, you are not obligated to supply an itinerary. A calm line, such as "there is a priority to handle," then a graceful pivot, keeps the conversation respectful and your position intact. Over time, your speech acquires a different weight because listeners learn that you do not speak to fill silence. Words become scarce and therefore valuable. Selectivity also protects narrative control. You prevent others from assembling fragments into weapons, and you prevent yourself from committing to positions before they mature. It is not rudeness, it is stewardship. The most capable operators in any field understand cadence. They reveal enough to build trust, never so much that they surrender advantage. Treat personal data as coin. Spend with intention, invest where returns are likely, and resist impulse purchases of approval. The aim is not to act mysterious for spectacle. The aim is to maintain authorship over your story, to protect relationships from clutter, and to let substance speak at its chosen pace. Next comes adaptive presence, the art of meeting people in the language they actually hear. You already practice a version of this with family, colleagues, and strangers. Elevate it from accident to intention. Each person filters the world differently. Some parse numbers, some prioritize feelings, some rely on practical steps, some think in metaphors and horizons. If you deliver one unbending style to everyone, you will resonate with a subset and lose the rest. Study the listener before shaping the message. When facing the analytic mind, provide structure, references, and crisp definitions. When addressing the empathic mind, recognize emotional stakes and respond to them. When speaking to the operator, demonstrate how the plan runs. When engaging the visionary, draw the arc and the destination clearly. Water adapts to a vessel and remains water. Do the same, present without bending your ethics. Authenticity does not require identical behavior in every room. It requires fidelity to core values while optimizing how those values are expressed. Mirror without mimicry, calibrate without pretending. The result is not manipulation. It is communication literacy that opens doors and reduces friction. Guardrails matter, because chameleons without anchors drift. Set your non-negotiables first. Decide which principles will not be traded for applause. Then practice adjustments that change delivery, not truth. Vary rhythm, tone, and vocabulary. Shift posture and tempo to match context. Use examples that live in the other person's world, so comprehension lands faster. Ask a few targeted questions early in any interaction to identify priorities, incentives, and fears. Listen for key phrases that reveal thinking styles. Keep notes after important conversations, not to script people, but to recall what unlocked mutual understanding. In negotiation, this skill compounds. You can label issues, separate positions from interests, and present proposals in frames the counterpart naturally accepts. In leadership, you provide what your team actually needs rather than what feels comfortable to give. In alliances, you become the rare presence who makes complex coordination feel simple. The warning remains firm. Never adapt until your identity disappears. The strongest gems have facets yet remain one stone. Your values form the stone. Facets are technique. Now to disciplined detachment, a lever that breaks chains quietly. Anything you cannot bear to lose owns you. Release that hold, and you neutralize many threats before they form. This is not coldness. It is freedom from desperation. People stay in corrosive roles because a paycheck feels like oxygen, and they silence conscience to retain it. People cling to relationships that violate their standards because solitude seems worse, and they trade integrity for company. People chase applause because withdrawal aches, and they alter truth to keep claps. The pattern is predictable. Fear of loss drives concessions that compound into regret. Choose a different path. Build options so no single door becomes a prison. Build skills that travel so titles cannot trap you. Build savings so you can pause rather than submit. Build friendships around shared principle instead of mere proximity. Then, when a threat relies on taking something away, the threat loses teeth. In bargaining, the party that can walk calmly carries more power. In decision-making, the person not attached to being right sees reality more clearly. Detachment amplifies judgment. If approval does not sit on the throne, you can select the difficult choice that serves long-term aims. If winning every exchange is not a mandate, you can conserve energy for battles that matter. If a plan fails, you can pivot without performing tragedy. Paradoxically, outcomes arrive more often when you do not clutch them. Confidence is not a guarantee that events will align. It is the inner proof that you remain whole when they do not. Train this gradually. Begin with miniature exercises. Skip the needless debate. Let an unimportant point pass. Resist the urge to announce your every plan, and observe how much space opens. Later, release the need to be invited into every room, the need to be remembered by everyone, the need to tie identity to a single role. People will sense the difference since independence cannot be faked for long. Respect follows those who are anchored. Detachment does not erase care. It removes panic from care. You still love, work, and commit, only without chains that strangers can yank. Silent leverage completes this foundation, because the strongest influence often travels without volume. Many think domination requires raised voices and theatrical postures. That is usually a mask for insecurity. Real authority reconfigures the environment so that alignment becomes the easy path. You design settings where your preferred outcome feels natural. You cultivate reliability until doors open by reputation. You make yourself useful in ways that cannot be ignored, and power arrives as a consequence rather than a demand. In conversation, master the pause. Most people fear quiet and will rush to fill it. They reveal needs, contradictions, and plans with no prompting. You can adjust course using information you never had to solicit. In interviews, pause before answering difficult questions. The gap signals consideration. Your response gains gravity. In bargaining, alternatives do not need to be announced. The posture that you can select another route forces more reasonable terms without threats. In relationships, create value consistently, not loudly. People notice who eases burdens and solves problems. Patience turns silent leverage into compounding capital. You are not chasing immediate gratification. You are stacking credibility, one delivered promise at a time. You are planting in seasons when others only harvest. That requires acceptance that recognition may lag behind contribution. It requires a quiet ledger that only you track, where consistency is recorded. Over time, invitations arrive without campaigning, approvals appear without lobbying, and decisions tilt toward your proposals because stakeholders already trust your pattern. Maintain ethics. Influence exists to make better decisions easier, not to trick people into harm. Create scenarios where your gains do not require someone else's loss, or where any cost is transparent and chosen, not hidden. Silent leverage is a structure that distributes weight smartly. Design defaults that serve shared interests. Adjust incentives so cooperation pays. Protect privacy so confidence grows, and remember that a single breach of integrity erases years of accumulation. Guard the account. To weave these capabilities together, consider how each feeds the others. Calculated ambiguity prevents premature commitments that would limit adaptive presence. Adaptive presence opens doors where detachment keeps you from begging to stay. Detachment supplies calm, which strengthens silent leverage. Silent leverage grants time, which makes selective disclosure easier. You create a loop that stabilizes itself. Around you, dramas will continue. Someone will scheme, someone will talk too much, someone will self-destruct publicly. Resist the desire to correct every person or join every spectacle. Withdraw from whirlpools that steal momentum. Choose arenas that pay for preparation. Some will accuse you of being distant because your boundaries are functional. That is acceptable. Warmth and limits can live together, and you are not obligated to perform availability for those who only value access, not contribution. Practical drills embed the theory. For 30 days, answer 2 casual questions each day with brevity and poise rather than over-explaining, then note reactions. For 2 meetings each week, prepare a short profile of attendees, including likely priorities and communication styles, then adapt without compromising values. For 1 negotiation this month, decide in advance the minimum acceptable terms and a clean walkaway point. Then stick to it. For daily interactions, practice 3-second pauses after complex questions to gather thoughts. For 1 project, deliver excellent work without drawing attention to your effort, and track how often people initiate requests later. None of these exercises require titles or budgets. They only require attention, restraint, and consistency. Results arrive quietly, and they stack. Language hygiene supports the mindset. Avoid absolute promises unless you control every variable, which is rare. Replace desperation verbs with preference verbs. Instead of I must, use I intend or I plan. Instead of I cannot live without, say I value, while remembering that values inform choices rather than enslave them. When someone tries to rush you, name the pressure and slow the tempo. When you receive bait, choose not to bite. When rumors circle, do not contribute material. When a conflict offers no prize, decline the invitation. When you err, correct quickly without theater. The point is not to appear invulnerable. The point is to remain governable by principle rather than noise. Maintain a clear ethical core. Tools become traps when the heart behind them is rotten. Selective disclosure, adaptable presence, detachment, and silent leverage form a set that can defend or damage. Choose defense. Protect your work from sabotage. Protect your peace from turbulence. Protect your team from avoidable chaos. If a tactic would humiliate someone for sport, do not use it. If a move would secure a temporary win while poisoning long-term trust, reject it. You are building power that does not rely on cruelty. People who live by cruelty eventually live under it. People who cultivate real capability build foundations that storms cannot easily shift. Expect resistance as you change. Old acquaintances may prefer the version of you that bled details on demand, chased validation, and volunteered labor for crumbs. Some will test boundaries. Hold the line calmly. New patterns teach others how to interact with you. Not everyone will remain. That is acceptable. Space clears for those who appreciate the structure you bring. Life thickens with fewer, stronger ties that are chosen rather than clutched. Opportunities improve when you stop signaling scarcity with behavior. Your schedule fills with higher leverage tasks when you stop rewarding low return demands. The sensation of guilt fades as respect takes its place. Return now to the original landscape. The world can feel uneven. People will disappoint you. Selections will sometimes ignore merit. None of that has to break you or turn you into a villain. Use the heat of betrayal and embarrassment to harden attention, not to harden compassion. Let humiliation teach you what to secure. Let defeat teach you where to build alternatives. Let rejection teach you which rooms do not deserve you. Shadowed comprehension is not mystical. It is a discipline of noticing, regulating, and acting at the right time. It is a library of lessons written in scars that you accept without bitterness. Anchor everything with the affirmation that started this journey. Choose strategic intelligence over automatic emotion. Repeat it daily until it is muscle memory, then demonstrate it in small choices rather than grand speeches. Share less when sharing adds nothing. Adapt delivery to the listener while honoring your core. Hold outcomes lightly while pursuing them seriously. Influence quietly by making yourself useful and reliable. The people who survive are not always the loudest or the most decorated. They are the ones who respond to pressure with clarity, who refuse cheap bait, who design lives that are hard to corner. Build that life, and you will not need to announce that you have arrived. Outcomes will announce it for you. You are not deceiving anyone. You are steering interactions toward outcomes that genuinely improve the situation for all sides, while refusing to announce each step like a marching band. Quiet leverage is not the same as idleness, since you still prepare, choose, and execute, only you avoid noise that invites resistance. A calm move placed at the correct time can outweigh 10 loud gestures that burn goodwill and reveal strategy. The point is not to hide from responsibility. The point is to let the work speak while you conserve attention, protect relationships, and keep the initiative. You move like a chess player who understands tempo, pressure, and space, guiding momentum so that the natural choice for others also happens to be the choice that advances the plan. Power that must shout to be noticed is usually fragile, while power that keeps its balance in silence can redirect a room without friction. When someone believes you are passive, you allow them that belief. Then you let results correct the story. A deeper layer of quiet influence begins with psychological echo, which means learning to reflect the true concerns and hopes of the person in front of you so accurately that they feel recognized before they feel persuaded. People purchase stories that resolve a private tension, not mere features or slogans. They respond to language that addresses identity, safety, status, belonging, autonomy, or meaning. Surface talk hides signals that reveal the core. A complaint often disguises a need for significance. A boast sometimes covers a fear of irrelevance. A harsh tone can be a shield for uncertainty about the next step. Most listeners wait for an opening to deliver their message. The rare listener studies patterns, asks short questions that reveal context, and then mirrors the essence in clean words that carry no judgment. You can use a simple triad as a compass in any exchange. The unspoken queries are whether you see the person, whether you grasp what matters to them, and whether you treat their position as worthy of care. When your responses communicate yes to all three, through tone, timing, and phrasing, walls soften without force. Reflection is not flattery. Reflection is accurate naming. If someone declares a hatred for their job, the obvious reply offers tactics for a new resume, while the precise reply identifies that the person might feel unseen, underutilized, or uncertain about growth. If a colleague says they are drowning in tasks, the shallow reply praises hustle, while the focused reply acknowledges standards and dedication, then helps design a smaller set of high-impact actions. You are not changing your message. You are shaping its doorway. Security-minded individuals prefer language of stability, safeguards, and predictable pathways. Recognition-minded individuals respond to achievement, visibility, and markers of progress. Freedom-minded individuals move when you present choices, range, and flexible steps. This is ethical when the aim is service, since you align benefits with the other person's values and allow them to choose cleanly. The influence grows because the listening is real and the mirror is placed without distortion. To practice psychological echo well, you cultivate habits. Keep brief notes on the phrases people repeat and the metaphors they reach for, because these reveal the maps they use. Listen for the emotion behind a statement, since tone usually tells you more than grammar. Test your understanding with neutral summaries that invite correction, not with leading questions that trap the other person. Replace long speeches with focused reflections that compress the other person's meaning into a few clear sentences. Affirm strengths without exaggeration and frame obstacles as solvable. Offer options and allow silence to do part of the work. When you consistently reflect the right layer, people assign you authority in their minds without a vote, because they feel safer thinking through problems with you than without you. This is how trust compounds in leadership, in sales, in parenting, and in partnership. The more precisely you listen, the less you will need to push. Complex environments demand a second trait that unsettles simple slogans. A pragmatic ethic that accepts that situations rarely divide into pure categories of nice and cruel. This does not discard principle. This rejects pretense. A tidy gesture that looks kind on a public stage can damage a team in private, while a firm boundary that looks severe can protect the many and prevent a larger harm. Consider a unit where one contributor repeatedly misleads clients. A soft approach that offers endless second chances may feel humane in the moment, yet it teaches the group that honesty is negotiable and trains partners to expect disappointment. Removing the source of the breach early sets a different lesson. It respects the work of the reliable, protects trust, and stabilizes future commitments. Consider a friend who seeks advice about a harmful relationship. Empty comfort may keep the chat pleasant, yet it leaves the harm in place. Care sometimes speaks with direct clarity because long-term health outweighs short-term ease. The engine of pragmatic ethics is the focus on outcomes for the greatest number within firm boundaries. You define non-negotiables that cannot be traded for convenience, such as respect for dignity, refusal to deceive, and willingness to own consequences. Within those rails, you select the action that actually reduces harm and increases benefit across time, not just the action that preserves an image today. Different contexts require different moves. Full transparency can be right in one setting, and reckless in another where sensitive information would expose many to risk. Strategic disclosure can be appropriate when timing matters, and when the whole truth delivered later protects more lives or more livelihoods than a rushed disclosure that triggers panic. You keep a written set of lines you will not cross. You keep a second list of actions you will take if necessary, even when they are difficult or unpopular, because the long-term result is measurably better. Ambiguity without ethics is a costume for selfishness, so clarity about limits is essential. Before pressure arrives, you decide which obligations you prioritize when values collide. You decide what evidence will change your mind, and you decide how you will report and review your own decisions. You invite a trusted partner to challenge your reasoning in private so you avoid the blindness that comes from self-justification. You articulate what you are willing to accept fallout for, and you document the rationale. When the moment arrives, you act without spectacle, and you carry the responsibility cleanly. You also review outcomes and update your models. The goal is not to appear saintly. The goal is to protect the mission, the people, and the future by refusing to let optics outweigh reality. Selective revelation supports both ethics and strategy. In an era that rewards constant broadcasting, restraint looks unusual and therefore memorable. You decide what parts of your story deserve daylight and what deserves the vault. Curiosity increases when a narrative offers clean edges and intentional spaces, and that curiosity becomes attention that you can invest where it matters. Early in a role, you do not need to display your entire library. You reveal capabilities in phases that match the needs of the work. This avoids creating false expectations and keeps room for surprise benefits later. In a negotiation, you do not present every constraint at the start. You share requirements in a sequence that preserves options and reduces exposure. In friendship, you do not pour out your entire history on first contact. You disclose gradually as trust earns the right to hold personal weight. Timing is a core piece of controlled exposure. Identical information can land as arrogance or as service depending on when it appears. A skill advertised before context looks like bragging. The same skill displayed at the moment it solves an urgent problem looks like contribution. You pay attention to audience. Different circles require different kinds of knowledge about you. A spouse should know what a competitor should not. A client should understand your reliability more than the intimate details of your routines. A team should know what goals you are chasing and what standards you apply. While strangers online do not require your calendar, your address, or your raw reactions to every provocation. You treat your digital footprint as part of your professional architecture. You remove posts that add no value and that could be misused. You avoid comments that serve ego but damage leverage. You invite others to know you where it helps them and helps the work, not where it empties your reserves. Information revealed cannot be rolled back, so you err on the side of patience. Silence closes doors that gossip would open to the wrong hallways. Precision protects you when narratives shift. Controlled exposure is not secrecy for its own sake. It is choosing to maintain authorship of your identity in environments that monetize distraction. The balance to seek is simple. Share enough to build trust, context, and connection, and withhold enough to guard dignity and strategic advantage. The people who practice this balance appear grounded rather than aloof. They seem consistent rather than theatrical. They know the difference between intimacy and display. All of these traits gain force when you organize your life around outcomes rather than contests of pride. Results-first operators ask different questions and design different days. They measure by impact, not by volume of activity. They remove tasks that keep hands busy and add tasks that move the needle. They trade the desire to be right in an argument for the desire to secure the change they actually need. In a dispute, the goal might be to shift behavior, preserve a relationship, gather data, or reach a mutually beneficial exchange. If you enter a conflict purely to defeat the other side in a point-scoring match, you may satisfy vanity while losing the objective. If you enter with a clear aim, you can choose a route that reduces resistance and increases adoption. Let the other person discover the answer through their own reasoning when that path creates durable change. Accept a compromise that delivers 80% of the gain when a perfect win would cost the partnership. In organizations, outcome focus means selecting initiatives by effect rather than by spotlight. You use simple metrics that tie directly to value delivered. You cancel projects that produce reports without producing benefits. You delegate responsibilities that others can handle at 80% of your standard, so you can invest your attention in the few domains where your contribution produces outsized returns. You review your calendar weekly and remove recurring meetings that exist for tradition rather than purpose. You practice strategic laziness, which is not neglect, but a refusal to pour energy into low-leverage efforts. You channel most of your time into the small set of activities that create most of the result. You apply the same lens to learning. You do not chase breadth for the comfort of feeling busy. You choose the smallest skill set that unlocks the largest doors, and you learn those skills to a functional level quickly, then deepen them where advantage grows. Adaptability protects this focus. You remain committed to the destination while staying flexible about the road. When data shows a method failing, you pivot without sulking. When new information reveals a better route, you adopt it. You're stubborn about outcomes and relaxed about tactics. Teams trust leaders who can switch plans without blaming the weather. They also trust leaders who end failing efforts early, thank contributors, and redirect resources with clarity. The reputation that results from consistent delivery becomes its own magnet. People prefer to partner with those who finish. Better opportunities arrive because your name is associated with completion and with integrity. Better problems arrive because you solve the easy ones so reliably that decision-makers send you the difficult ones. Use these ideas with care, since capability always carries responsibility. Quiet leverage should not be a tool for harm. Psychological echo should not be a trick to sell poison. Pragmatic ethics should not become an excuse to hurt people for personal gain. Controlled exposure should not be a veil for deceit. Outcome focus should not trample values. The way to hold the line is to build ethical constraints into your definition of success. Include dignity, fairness, and contribution in the scoreboard from the start, then measure against that scoreboard publicly enough that others can see your commitments. In practice, this means documenting decisions, inviting audits, and repairing mistakes quickly. It means saying no to apparent wins that require you to become someone you will not respect in 10 years. It means choosing long arcs over short applause. A simple plan helps turn concepts into habits. Select one trait that resonates today. For 7 days, practice it in small ways. If you choose quiet leverage, practice intentional pausing in 2 conversations each day, and note what extra information appears. If you choose psychological echo, write 1 sentence after each meeting that captures the other person's deeper concern. Then use that sentence to guide your next outreach. If you choose pragmatic ethics, list your 3 non-negotiables and 1 scenario where you will accept a difficult short-term cost to protect a better long-term outcome. If you choose controlled exposure, decide what categories of information you will never post online and what categories you will share only after trust is established. If you choose outcomes first, eliminate 1 busy task every morning and replace it with 1 action that clearly advances a top goal. Return to the anchor that holds the system together. You are not chasing power for spectacle. You are building competence that resists manipulation and that shields the people and projects that matter. Real strength is the ability to move without noise, to listen without losing yourself, to decide without cruelty, to share without surrendering your edge, and to finish what actually needs finishing. The person who has nothing to lose can be chaotic and dangerous. Yet the person who understands human nature and uses that understanding to lift the quality of decisions is the person others will seek when stakes rise. Choose that path daily. It does not require titles. It requires discipline. If this material reshaped your understanding of influence, strategy, and decision-making, express that response in the format your platform supports, since engagement signals help more people find useful ideas. If you want ongoing material that explores psychology, tactics, and behavior in practical terms, follow the channel, activate reminders, and join the discussion. Share which trait you notice most often in people who consistently deliver meaningful results, and share which trait you will practice first in your own environment. The final reminder is simple. Intelligence without wisdom can scatter into clever cruelty. Wisdom asks that intelligence serve aims larger than appetite. Stay focused on what works. Stay within your values even when pressure rises. Keep building the quiet, reliable strength that improves the lives around you while protecting your own.